So I am very excited to tell you about two new features from FreshBooks. One is a major one, and one is a minor one. We're going to get into the major one first. Everybody inhale deeply with anticipation. They have made some huge changes to the chart of accounts. Now, they are constantly improving their software and making extra features and integrations, but this is more of a fundamental change to the entire software platform. This is not a bell or a whistle. This is like changing the bones of the software, and it is really going to help small businesses do their bookkeeping in FreshBooks. I was one of the early testers for this new chart of accounts upgrade, and I have had a hard time being patient and keeping my mouth shut for this release, but I know from my work with the developers that they have been working to make sure that this is done right. The second, more minor release has to do with you getting to turn on additional accounting features inside your account. You do have to proactively turn on a toggle button for these features, but if you're already comfortable with a little more advanced accounting concepts, or if you are a subscriber to my channel where I teach you about how to do your accounting on FreshBooks, subscribe to the channel, then you will want to turn on these additional features for yourself. So let's walk through both of these updates, and I'll tell you what you need to do and what you need to know based on this FreshBooks update in the summer of 2022. Let's dive in. So if you're watching this video after July 20th, 2022, you don't need to do nearly as much. All new FreshBooks accounts started after July 20th are going to automatically be able to access the new chart of accounts and the new accountant features. If you started your FreshBooks account before July 20th, 2022, then listen up. FreshBooks is rolling out some new chart of accounts features in a very systematic way. Eventually, everyone's going to get this, but in these early days of this rollout, if you have an account that was started before July 20th, you need to request it if you want to be prioritized for this conversion. So you need to log into your FreshBooks and open up a support ticket. Probably just start with the subject line, something like, I would like to have access to the new chart of accounts features ASAP. All right, now let's take a look at what this is going to mean inside the FreshBooks account. All right, so I started a new demo account here. We can poke around a little bit. By the way, if you have not started a FreshBooks file and you're watching this kind of to research, use my accountant referral link below and you'll get a 90-day free trial. I can assure you that within 90 days you will know whether this is going to be a good software for you. And I'm here to help if you have any questions about it. You can even join my weekly office hours if you'd like a little more support using the program. Okay, so this is the major update, the chart of accounts. But you can't use this update without first turning on the accountant features. So you're going to go to settings, and then you're going to go to accounting, and you're going to turn on this little toggle right here. And that's going to open up everything. They do warn you, only use this if you have experience in accounting or in collaboration with an accountant. So I agree. You can get into trouble if you start to use these features too much and don't know what you're doing. All right, boom. That was the minor update and all the info you need to know about that. Whether you're a new user who just started their account or an old user, you're going to go to this accounting tab and turn this stuff on. So now that you have access to these features, let's talk about what you need to know about it. First, let's touch on the specific FreshBooks tips. One of the best improvements is that there is a real cost of goods sold feature. Let's take a look. Here in the accounting section, I'm coming to view your accounts. And in the expenses section, this part right here is a lot more built out and is proper. Before, it was just a tag that you could turn on for certain expenses, and it was just really wrong from a pure accounting perspective, but now that it's correct, and I'll show it to you. So let's say you've come to your expenses tab and you're going to add a new expense. Hopefully your bank is connected and you're not creating these manually, but so when you add a new expense, you can add a category, and if you start typing new expense category, I'm going to create this, and you have these radial buttons. So if you want it to be a cost of goods sold expense, you would click this, and it's going to put it in a separate section away from your OPEX expenses. It's going to put in the cost of goods sold. So this is an example of how you would start to create new expenses kind of on the fly. You are also able to come here to more actions and add a new account here if you want, whether it's a cost of goods sold or an OPEX expense. So even though I live in the US, I created a client called Corb, Lund, one of my favorite Canadian musicians, and I have 2 charges that are for a specific project for him. And I called one of them Project Supplies, and this is a COGS account. I hit that radio button to make it a COGS, not an operating expense. But I also wanted to bill back an airline ticket. Let's say I had to fly up for the project, and I'm going to charge him for that. So I want to mark it as billable, but it's really not, in my mind, like it wouldn't be helpful to keep that in a COGS situation. So I didn't mark it as a COGS account. I marked it as travel, and I want to be able to see how much my project was profitable for him, but I want that airline to not be clumped in with the same things as true project supplies. So I hope that makes sense, and I'm very, very glad to see this distinction between COGS and regular operating expenses. For the most part, COGS can kind of be thought of as like variable costs. They vary with specific work that you do for a client, and OPEX is business expenses that are not tied back to a specific client. But as in this airline ticket example, sometimes billable expenses that are tied directly to a client don't really make sense to call COGS. Again, it's up to you what's best for your business, but this is how I would like to see it if it were mine. All right, now there is a small update with journal entries, but they are still very risky because you cannot delete or edit a journal entry in FreshBooks. You put the wrong year in the date field, should have had more coffee before you woke up and started doing journal entries, or did you forget a tiny decimal point, or maybe you transposed 2 of your numbers, no forgiveness for you. Thought you'd take a 50-50 shot at which side is your debit and which side is your credit, and you guessed wrong? Nope. Better luck next time. If you make a mistake, you have to make a second journal entry to exactly reverse it, and then make a 3rd journal entry, and this time, hope you get it right. So the update is that there is at least a journal entry report, which I will show you here in the accounting reports section. Journal entry report. This account doesn't have any journal entries, but at least you're going to get the number, the 2 accounts that have the debit and credit, and the date. And so you can, maybe handwrite that down and then go back into another journal entry and do the exact opposite. This report is going to greatly help when you make a mistake. And I will fly to Canada and kiss everyone on the development team once they offer us an edit or a delete. And in the back end, they're going to be making those extra journal entries, the reverse and then the fix. All right, another feature here is the edit or delete button. So let's come to our chart of accounts. Say I wanted to delete one of my favorite ones to delete, our archive, personal. We'll talk more about personal later. You can archive it by hitting this, click all these buttons. And the good thing is, if you scroll down, you can view archive accounts and unarchive that if you want to start using it again. I'll tell you why I think you should archive the personal one later. There is also an edit button which you can use, create parent accounts, create sub-accounts. There's a little bit of gymnastics to go through here, but you can edit them. These chart of accounts can never be deleted, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Archiving them will keep it clean when you're looking through your categories to select things to label. The other thing to know is that as of this recording, this chart of accounts update really only affects the expenses part of the general ledger. See, there's all these asset, liability, equity, and income sections. Those parts are really not any different than they were before July 2022, which means they're still somewhat limited. The engineers are building it out as fast as they can, though, but for now, you can't categorize any of your transactions directly to those accounts, just like you have always not been able to do that. But instead, you have to use journal entries if you're going to start to add accounts to those headings, the asset, liability, and equity. It also means that for the financial reports, even if you do start to create those additional accounts for anything other than expenses or COGS, and you use journal entries to put transactions in those accounts will still get clumped together in your financial reports instead of seeing them broken out. So really just be cautious to start adding new accounts into anything other than the expenses tab. All right, now let's move on to some general tips for the chart of accounts. Here's one. Never have a customer name in your chart of accounts or a vendor name in the expenses section of the chart of accounts. If you've already done that, you're going to want to recategorize those transactions with the bulk reclassification tool, and then you're going to want to archive those accounts so that you aren't tempted to use them again. Don't have client name or vendor name in your chart of accounts. Another tip is KISS. If you've downloaded my bookkeeping basics worksheet, which there'll be a link below, you'll know that I'm a huge advocate of the KISS principle. Keep it simple, silly, or keep it super simple. Unless you have a couple of formal accounting classes under your belt, I'd set a cap on yourself to not create more than about 10 to 15 new accounts max before calling a certified FreshBooks accounting partner for their help, just to make sure you're doing this correctly. If you look below this video, you can get a link to the official directory of accounting pros who work in FreshBooks. All right, next tip. Credit card payments and loan payments are not expenses. Do not make an account called credit card payment or loan payment. Also, there are a few default accounts that you should never ever use. I already mentioned one, personal. This account is a lie from the pit of accounting HE double hockey sticks. There is no such thing as a personal expense on a business profit and loss statement. If you accidentally make a personal expense in your business bank account, that is an owner's draw, and it goes on your balance sheet. It is an equity transaction. I'm sure FreshBooks kept this account on there because users were using it, but you are a better business owner than that. You are watching videos to learn how to do things correctly. Also, nothing ever should be in uncategorized expenses, right down here. And I don't know about this sales taxes paid account. This has always confused me. In America, small businesses do not track the portion of business expenses that are sales tax. Maybe a nonprofit does if they're exempt from sales tax or something, but that should really be happening at the moment you purchase something. And most nonprofits should not be using FreshBooks anyway, because you can't track your donations and restricted funds properly with the limited functionality of the revenue side of any of the things in FreshBooks. Anyway, I don't know what sales taxes paid is, and I've asked plenty of peers, and no one else knows either. Okay, this is a lot of info. If your head is exploding right now and you need any help, please don't hesitate to reach out. I can give you some one-on-one training, or I can get you an invite to my weekly office hours. I want to support any FreshBooks user that needs help navigating this awesome software update. I'm Kate Josephine Johnson, and I help businesses build their business legacy.